Hey, welcome in to the a first for Carpooling with Ben. After 38 episodes, finally doing it in the rain.
Yes.
And none other than the rainy day man himself.
Yes.
Mr. Ace Aceto. Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me on this. I appreciate you picking me up in the boat.
Well, that's what we're here for. We got paddles in the back, and life jackets located throughout the vessel.
Very good.
You have been Rhode Island's funny man for a number of years. You do a ton of shows. Your Royal Flush Comedy Tour.
Yeah.
Where you bring in other comedians. And listen, it really seems like most of the shows you do are for charity. Like, do you make any money doing this? I mean, are you trying to hide from the government or something? What's going on?
I do. I just, in fact, it's funny. I just got hit up last night for a show for a dance studio, and I do a lot for charities, but the Royal Flush is not for charity. But I have done a lot of work with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, which is how we met.
Right.
And that was free. I don't know. I do work. I do work and get paid for it.
Yeah,
so
that's good. That's good to make money.
It's good to
Uncle
make
Sam,
money.
if you're listening, hit him up. So.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, Uncle Sam hits me up. Trust me. I just did my taxes.
Oh, isn't that fun?
Yeah. I'm thinking of buying some GoPro cameras for my car for a tax write-off.
Well, you could do that. You could do that. If you do Uber or Lyft, you can. You can
yeah.
tape
No, I got
stuff.
enough jobs.
You're good. You're a family man. You got a couple kids, and they're
three kids.
3 kids.
Yep. 13-year-old daughter, 12-year-old son, and 9-year-old daughter.
Wow, look at you, Dad of the year. Chasing. What are the sports we're into? Are they soccer,
luckily,
baseball?
All of them have gone through the sports. My son did. He did baseball. He did basketball. Now he just does Boy Scouts, which is enough. He's got a meeting every week, and then camping trips once a month.
All right.
So that keeps him busy. I've got the 13-year-old is in competitive cheerleading team.
Wow.
And then the 9-year-old is competitive dance.
Okay.
So yeah, keep him busy.
Sure. The those dance costumes, I understand, are not cheap.
No, neither is the cheerleading uniform or the competition fees for both. But that's all right. They're doing great. They love it, and that's all that matters.
And your son helps out by doing the Boy Scouts. It's like, here, kid, have some sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's about the cheapest. He's very easygoing.
Always the way. What put you into comedy? What made you want to go start being a comedian? Was it something you started off as a kid? Because you have a profession.
Yeah.
I don't want to say on the side, a full-time career.
Yeah, that thing I do on the side that pays the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in medical sales during the day.
Okay.
But it's funny because I've been asked this before, and I started trying to pinpoint it, and I definitely go back to listening to Bill Cosby albums when they had albums.
Right, the vinyl.
The vinyl albums. My neighbors, my distant cousins had all of his albums. So we used to listen to that. And then 1981, 82, George Carlin at Carnegie Hall was on HBO. And this is when, you had 12, 10, and 6 for local channels.
And you had to do the
and
dial.
then you had HBO,
Okay.
When cable came around. And watched that, and I was like, wow, this is someone's job. This is really cool. Like, that guy gets paid to do that.
Yeah.
And then it was, I always did impressions. And I worked at, here's a Rhode Island moment, get ready. I worked at Almax.
Dun, 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 dun.
Ta-da.
Should have like a dinger or something.
Yeah,
every time
exactly. I know.
Name
Every
a
time
business
you
that's
plug a
out,
business.
absolutely.
So I worked at Almax, and I used to do impressions of famous people and of some of the people that actually worked there, like a lot of the front-end managers.
Okay.
This is before 24-hour stores. I used to do impressions of people after the store was closed.
That's when the grocery shopping was really good.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, hey, do you want to do the announcements? And I do it as like Dudley Moore as Arthur. And I'm like, hello, Almax shoppers. The store will be closing in 5 minutes. And, I just do the announcements. And at the time, I was like 17. And the older kids who were 21, 22, they always used to be, hey, you should try and be, like,
try and be funny.
a comic. Yeah, you should
try
and be funny for a living. And I'm like, I don't know, where do you go? And they said, well, Periwinkles, which was the comedy club downtown Providence.
Yep.
So I always, as I would do impressions for people from the time I was 17 till I was 21, during that 4-year period, everyone would be like, oh, you're so funny, you should try comedy. I'm like, yeah, someday I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was listening to, a local radio station that was, they ran a comedy contest at Periwinkles every summer.
Okay.
Summer tends to be the slower time for comedy, so that's where you'll see a lot of comedy contests running.
Okay.
And so they were doing the contest, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just try it. And I didn't even have material. I basically took lines from movies and just reenacted them. So at the time, again, Dudley Moore was big with Arthur, and there was a scene in, I don't know, have you ever seen the movie? The original?
No,
so there's
I only see movies that the Muppets make.
Well, he was on the Muppets once, but it wasn't as Arthur.
It was an episode.
Yeah. So there's a scene where he falls out of his car and he gets up and he's laughing because he's drunk, and he's laughing, and he says to his driver, he goes, "Bitterman, I fell out of the car, and that's the funniest thing." And so that was my entrance onto the stage. I fell on the stage on purpose and said, "I fell onto the stage, and that's the funniest thing." And then I would just quote lines from the movie. And Charlie Hall, who was the godfather of Rhode Island comedy, he came up after, and he was running the contest, and I came in second that night.
Really?
It was my first time on stage. I came in second for the preliminary round. I got blasted in the finals, but not drunk, just lost.
No, that's
and
totally sober.
Although I might have been drunk.
Stone cold.
So after the contest was done, he said, "Listen, your impressions were really good, but if you really want to do something in comedy, you need to write original material." And I'm like, well, I don't even know what to do. He said, write about yourself. That's the best thing, to be original, write about your experiences in life. Mm-hmm. And so, I went back home, I kind of thought about it, talked to friends, and I was like, well, I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 9th grade. That had a pretty big impact on my life. And I started talking to other people that I, was friends with or that I hung out with. And they said, they started talking about how in the old days, you'd listen to AM radio waiting for school cancellations during a snowstorm. Sure. And you'd have to listen to, Salty Brine doing the cancellations. And I was like, yeah, that kind of sucked. You had to listen. And in Catholic school, you always had school.
Right.
Like, you never got school canceled.
Right. Mom and Dad was paying for it. So
exactly. They never canceled school. And when we only lived maybe 3 blocks from the school at the time. So that became the kernel of my act. That became like the basis of it. And then I started trying to do impressions. So I did an impression of Salty, and then I did an impression of Bud Taves and Mike Sheridan, who did morning news and traffic before he would come on. And
right.
I'm like, yeah, that would drag the show out a little bit longer and, make me more miserable of the fact that I knew what was coming. I knew I was going to have school. And then a friend of mine who I was a volunteer on the fire department in North Providence at the time. He used to do this he would do Bud Taves kind of going through this, diatribe in the morning and canceling, doing the morning news and traffic. And he brought up the fact that the kids in Foster Gloucester never had school.
Right.
And so that kind of got incorporated into it. And that, I still do that to this day. I haven't retired. Like, I've retired other things that I've done, but that kind of is what I'm known for. That whole bit about Foster Gloucester not having school, doing the impression, doing Bud Taves and Mike Sheridan and Salty. And that's how it started. Maybe a month or two later, I went back to Periwinkles. I had this little 5 minutes worked out between that, talking about being from North Providence, where I grew up, and being Italian, and that's how it started. I had 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden you expand on that, and you get to 10 minutes, and then you get to 20, and it just grows.
That's great. I mean, how do you get yourself into the writing mood? Is it just when it hits, you kind of jot things down, or do you like plan out time and, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours today. I mean, I know you have kids, so
Ideally,
2
that would
hours
be the
is
great
usually a
thing.
nap. But
It's funny. I bought a book on comedy writing. 28 years in, I decided to actually learn how to write comedy.
why not? Give
And
it a
it's
shot.
sitting on my island at home right now in the kitchen. I bought it probably 3 months ago. I haven't cracked it yet.
All right. It's a great
I'm
coffee
one of
holder.
those. Yeah, I'm one of those people. Maybe because I've always had a job.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who really, it just has to come to me.
Yeah.
So I don't set aside time to write, although occasionally I'll get together with other comics. We'll do like a writing workshop.
Sure.
And I'll say, I have this idea for, I started doing an impression of Trump and I'm trying to work on material. And that's kind of, doing political humor is a touchy subject.
Especially right now, yes.
Especially right now because
Yeah.
it's so polarizing.
Right,
So
right.
you don't want to me, I see some comics get up and, they either love Trump or they bash Trump, and you're automatically alienating 50% of your audience.
Sure.
Or 42% if you want to get technical. You're alienating half the audience. So it's hard for me. I want to make it so that if I'm doing Trump, I'm doing it so over the top that people who like Trump are laughing at it because they're like, oh, it's a caricature.
Sure.
And people who hate Trump like it because they're like, yeah, that's how he is, So,
Do you think that stigma is going to change? I mean, I think when any president has taken office,
Yeah.
not that we're going to turn this into a political discussion, but when any political office, is taken up by a president or even a governor or whomever,
Yeah.
you always have that 50-50 split. Half the
Yeah.
people love you, half the people hate you. But when it comes to the, as the term goes on, your impression may not offend as many people.
yeah.
But I'm curious if that's going to happen with Trump because it's such a different,
so
different,
polarizing,
dynamic this time around.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting time, and
Yeah.
that's why I just try and stay not middle of the road. I mean, believe me, my Trump, I talk about. Well, I don't know if you want me to do it.
We can edit anything,
What are-
but
what
try
are the
it. We'll
things-
see. We'll test
So
audiences.
I go way over the top. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I've got a way we're gonna build this wall, and we're gonna get Mexico to pay for it. Yes, I got 2 words: Thin Mints. We're going to set up a Girl Scout cookie website in Mexico. We're going to sell them Thin Mints, and that's how we're going to pay for the wall. So it's like so over the top stupid that
Right.
hopefully people who like Trump are even laughing.
Sure.
So to answer your question, I don't really set aside time to write. It's as things come to me. Now, in the old days, you'd carry a little notebook or you'd put a notebook by your side, by your nightstand or whatever. Now, with technology,
Oh yeah, Evernote or whatever.
I just do the little notes in the on the iPhone.
Has Siri ever translated it wrong and it's actually funnier?
I don't do Siri.
Oh, okay.
I actually go into the voice memo
Oh, okay.
thing
All right.
and do it. And if I went through my voice memos now, I probably have things from 4 years ago.
Wow.
That I've just never sat down and said, okay, how do I write
Further
this
develop
funny?
it up. Yeah. That's,
Eventually I get to it, and as time frees up, I'll try and get up. My thing is some of the material that I've done really comes from other comics. I do a joke about because I was sitting at Periwinkle's with a comic a long time ago, and after the show we were just kind of talking. He goes, "Yeah," he goes, you do so many impressions and you do a lot about Catholic. Have you ever thought of doing like the 10 Commandments as a countdown with Casey Kasem? And I'm like, that's a really good idea.
That's brilliant. Yeah, sure.
You come up with ideas from other comics, and that ended up being a bit. It was Casey Kasem in the remake of the 10 Commandments, where he's Moses counting down the 10 Commandments, and it's like, and down 3 notches this week to number 7 is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. And now let's go to a long distance dedication. Dear Moses, I hear the Israelites are building a golden calf. This makes me very sad. Could you please play Stop in the Name of Love, sign God? So some
great.
bits come from other comics.
Sure,
It's gold,
sure, that's excellent.
Because what happens is you get so wrapped up in the concept,
Yeah.
It's writer's block. You get so wrapped up in the concept, you're trying to think of how to make it funny or how to present it. Someone comes in and sees that concept from a totally different angle.
Sure.
And you're like, why didn't I see that? But, you know, I've sat in the room with other comics while they're up on stage and they say something, and then I think they're going to like tag it with a really funny line, and they don't. And they come off stage and I'm like, hey, have you ever thought of saying this? And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. That's really funny.
That's great. It's the given, you know.
It's give and take,
yeah,
exactly.
Sure. What's the, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are going to be? I mean, everybody's got, you know, these specials coming out. Dave Chappelle, who, you know, was kind of off the scene for, you know, almost a decade.
Yeah.
You know, he was, I saw him on an interview where he said he doesn't allow people to bring cell phones or put up, you know, cameras while he's doing his act.
That, and you know, that happens a lot, and look, I'm no one, you know. I mean, Chappelle, you know, he's looking at it as someone could go and sell it or bootleg it or, you know. The problem is, people who are doing it because they're like, oh, I love this, I want to watch this, I want to rewatch it. So they bring their cell phone and they start recording. Problem is, then they post it on, you know, YouTube or Facebook or somewhere, some social media site. And the problem is, and this happened to me about 5 or 6 years ago, someone who, you know, a friend who likes my act, who comes to a lot of shows, she recorded it and then posted it. Well, the problem is, you can hear me because I'm mic'd. Yeah. You can't hear the audience.
Okay.
So it sounds like I'm sucking on stage, and I'm not.
I got you.
You just can't hear.
Yeah.
The audience. So
yeah,
it's a you know, perception is everything.
Sure.
So now
absolutely.
Someone goes on, you know, let's say some comedy booker or, you know, someone from LA is going on and hears about me and clicks on that and looks at it and goes, yeah, it was all right.
Nobody's
the audience wasn't really laughing.
Right.
The audience was laughing, but there's no mic on the audience when you're doing that.
Right,
you know, the technology on the cell phones isn't quite there. People don't realize that. It's not going to look as good when you post it on you know, YouTube or whatever. And that's been a big change. Although, you know, in the old days, it's funny. Like now you're worried about people stealing stuff, you know, via cell phone or a video. One time I was doing a show at the Comedy Connection years and years ago, and this is back when it's probably maybe 2 or 3 years in. So I had a writing notebook.
Okay.
I'm on stage, and my best friend is there with me, and he comes up to me after I get off stage, and he goes, "Hey man, great set." He goes, "Hey, there's someone in the back, and they were writing down in a notebook all of your jokes. Like 2 people were just sitting there writing your jokes." So I got a little freaked out. I'm like, you know, I'm still relatively new, but I don't want someone stealing my material.
Sure.
So after the show, we went up to him, and you know, we were like, "Hey, you know, did you enjoy the show? Did you like my act?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, you were really funny." And he goes, I said, "Hey, you know, my friend saw you writing down in your notebook. I just want to know, are you another comic or, you know?" He goes, "Oh, no, let me introduce you to my friend. He's deaf. I was writing down your jokes so he could read them."
Oh.
I felt like such a jerk. I'm like, oh, crap.
When they walked away, they were both talking to each other. So they were just rolling. Yeah, it's an act they put on.
And now Mike Murray is a comic.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
There is quite a significant amount of talent on the Rhode Island scene.
Yeah.
You work with a lot of great people, obviously people you've brought in for different shows you've done. You know, you mentioned comics of the past. Is there anybody right now that you're watching, whether it be locally or nationally, that's an up-and-comer? You're like, okay, that person can, you know, really do something different and new.
It's funny because I don't watch stand-up comedy on like Netflix or whatever. I started watching Chappelle's special, and then my Netflix froze up. I don't know if that's happening to anyone else, but lately my Netflix is freezing up.
They want you to up your
So if
speed.
Netflix is watching this, please, you know, fix
They
your
do.
shit.
They do watch it. Anything you say, you can say right to the
good.
CEO of
That's
Netflix.
good.
Yep.
I don't watch a lot of comedy because the worst thing for a comic is you see a special, or you see a half-hour comedy special, and 6-8 months goes by, and you wake up from a dream, and you're like, oh my God, I got this great idea for a joke, and you completely forget. You don't consciously steal someone's premise or joke, but you don't remember, especially if you watch a lot. So I really don't watch a lot of comedy, other than local comedy. I like going to open mics sometimes because for my Royal Flush show, the Royal Flush is made up of a joker, which is typically a featured act, a jack, which is a new up-and-comer. They do 5 to 7 minutes. And then the Queen and the King are both headliners. And then depending on the format of the show, I'm the ace. And I either host the show if it's at like Newport Grand, because they get a repeat audience all the time. About 60% of the audience come every other month to the show.
Wow.
So I can't, I'm not writing a new hour or half hour every other month. So I host that one. But that jack spot, I like going to open mics because I get to see people who are up and coming, and if I don't see them for 6 months, then I go and see them and I see how they've progressed. Like there's a kid, Jonathan Tilson, who he's very, very witty, very smart writer. The Prince of Mystery. He's a comic magician. Skip Daniels. I've had him on the Royal Flush a couple of times because he's another up-and-comer. I guess from national, and he's not really an up-and-comer because he's kind of gone viral, but Sebastian Maniscalco is funny. I love that guy.
He does a great, he's got a few great stories, but his stories are all from home.
Right. He wrote about himself.
Exactly.
It's growing up in an Italian house. Yeah. And it's really just trying, that's the thing. When people come up to me after a show, sometimes people will come up and go, hey, my friends tell me I'm funny, I should try this. And I never discourage anyone, but I try and get them to realize, yeah, that's awesome. I don't discourage you, try it. Just understand, it's one thing to be funny with your friends. What makes you funny with your friends is you all have that thing in common.
A relationship.
You have the relationship, and you're all from, usually you're from the same group. Hey, all my friends are Italian, so when I talk about being Italian, I'm funny, The challenge of being a comic is being funny and finding that common thread with everyone. I would imagine like someone like Sebastian Maniscalco. Now, when he talks about like the doorbell ringing 20 years ago, oh my God, we got company, and then the doorbell ringing now and you're hiding and crawling across the floor. That probably resonates like crazy with someone like me, someone our age.
Yeah.
But someone who's 20, 21, 22, they probably don't understand that joke. You know what I mean? They don't get it.
Right.
So it's, it's trying to find the commonality with a diverse audience. Like, I'll be the first to say, I get hired to do colleges sometimes. I have nothing in common with college kids.
Really?
The only thing that gets me for college kids that like me is I wrote a bit that involves Family Guy, where I do the impressions from Family Guy, so that kind of helps.
Sure.
But when I start talking about growing up Catholic and listening to AM radio for school cancellations, they're like, what do you mean? You didn't go to the computer? You didn't get text alerts for canceled school?
Crazy.
They don't understand that.
They didn't cancel school 4 days before a storm happened.
No, exactly.
Because everybody's afraid.
Yeah, because everyone's afraid that, because of the storm.
We're just going to shut down for January and February. We'll see you in March.
I think we've had 8 storms of the century this century.
Absolutely.
And we're only 17 years in.
It's crazy. It's we're setting the bar high for once they get to 2020s and the 2030s.
Exactly.
It's, hate to see what's going to happen then. That is a funny thing because I grew up in Warren, Rhode Island, and I was kind of on the tail end where they actually used to sound the fire sirens. The town
volunteer firemen,
Right. Well, they used to use that for the school cancellations. If there were 9 blasts of the fire sirens at 7 a.m., school was canceled for the day.
9 blasts.
9 blasts. It was like, so you sat there, you listened to like 1, 2, 3. Oh man, somebody's house is burning down. We have to go to school.
So 9 blasts. What were 1 through 8 designated?
That was
what
actual.
If you slept through the first 4, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, only 5 blasts.
That's it.
Someone's house must be on fire.
You made fun of that kid.
Yeah.
You should be up. You should be listening.
Yeah.
It was times were different back then. And you're right. You had to listen. You didn't know. You used to. I mean, you didn't know what your friends were doing.
No.
I mean,
No.
if you wanted, there was no GPS. You went by a friend's house. If you saw 7 bikes in the front yard,
You knew
okay,
everyone
everybody's
was over
there.
that
Yeah,
kid's
absolutely.
house, right.
They're all playing Coleco or Atari. You know, that was
Right, yeah.
that was what it was. Nowadays, you know, you can, you know, just by the phone. I mean, whatever
yeah.
it is, these different.
Well,
you know,
I was talking to my son made high honors yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really proud. So we went to this reception that his teachers had, and I was talking to one of the other moms, and she was saying I had heard. Now my son has been friends with her son and daughter since kindergarten, and they're moving to New Hampshire, and I said, oh, that stinks. I said, but you know, at least it's not California. We go skiing a lot. You know, my kids can see, you know, your kids. It'll be good. And I was like, you know what? But it's not even like when we were kids. Like if you had a friend that moved from North Providence to Smithfield, you never saw that kid until you were driving. You know,
if you were lucky,
and you know, you were pen pals. You know what I mean? If you kept writing letters, yeah, I'll write you a letter. You know,
after summer camp, I'll write you every day.
Yeah,
I'll never forget you.
That's how it worked.
Young romance.
But now it's like, you know, my daughter, my 9-year-old had a friend who moved to Florida like 2-3 years ago. She still FaceTimes her.
Oh yeah,
she still sees her through FaceTime. It's so different now, you know, which is great.
It's
great they don't have to lose touch like that.
It's such an interesting dynamic, but you know, on the flip side, there is a bit of the skills of, you know, learning how to present yourself and communicate and how to
look up from your phone when you're at dinner.
Really?
And,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. I think we're seeing, you know, getting a look into your next couple of years of comedy as your kids get older and, you know, having to deal with that.
My kids don't even have a tan. They have a bluish hue on their face from the cell phone. That's all you see.
You give them vitamin D tablets.
Oh my God! Yeah, no kidding. Well,
kid.
especially if the weather constantly is like this.
Well, it's April. You know, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to happen. Well, Ace, it was great getting to know you and really dig into some of the stuff because, you know, people.
Thanks.
I mean, aside from seeing you on stage, sometimes they don't understand all that goes into it.
Yeah.
I know you've been doing some on-air stuff with Matt Allen from time to time. With
we
wrapping
roast
up
the news.
Yeah.
We roast the news of the month once a month.
That's great.
That's been fun.
So people can find your information where?
So I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I have 2 pages. I have a personal one that's almost full.
Okay.
I'm almost at the 5,000 mark.
Look at
That's
him.
just Ace Aceto.
Johnny Popular over here.
Yeah, I don't mean to brag. But then I have a comedy page, so it's comedian Ace Aceto.
Okay, great.
That one is unlimited. You can, you know,
We'll
as many
tag
people
that
that
one.
want to like.
We'll tag
and
that
then
one.
thanks. And then my website is being rebuilt, but the splash page is still available. So it's www.ace-aceto.com.
We'll put all the links in there. I learned how to do
Awesome.
all the editing. And
Awesome.
It was a fun summer. I had a glow from my
from
computer,
being
from
on the
YouTube,
computer.
watching tutorials.
How to do all that
Absolutely.
stuff,
So how to turn the computer on.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, but you know the
But that's
technology's
what-
out there.
and that's what you have to do in order
Sure.
to, you know, get a following. You know, besides doing the shows, we did a Royal Flush show last weekend, and at the end, you know, I had to tell people, you know, please, you know, come back. You know, we're here every other month, first Saturday of every other month. So the next one will be June 3rd.
Okay.
Totally new lineup every time, but you know, then I'm plugging the website and I'm plugging the Facebook page, and you know, I actually bought royalflushcomedy.com.
Wow.
So I'm in the process of having that site built
Wow.
and have that linked to my Ace Aceto website as well, because you know it'll be a little bit different.
And
So,
you hired a 12-year-old to do it because they're much smarter.
my son is going to be doing it because I have no idea. My son, he months, he was like, Dad, I want to start a YouTube channel. I'm like, what do you want to start a YouTube channel? Like, I have a YouTube channel. I haven't done anything with it. I
Sure.
have probably 30 subscribers, 12 if I'm lucky. Not
You'll
even
have
30.
13 after today.
Hey. He's like, well, you know, I want to make videos of me doing the Rubik's Cube and me doing the bottle flip, you know, all the things that like 12, 13-year-olds are into now.
How about a video of you cleaning
Freaking
your
kid
room?
had it for like a week and a half. He's already got more subscribers than me. And all he's doing is flipping bottles. Like, I'm busting my ass up on stage doing impressions. This kid's flipping a bottle in the living room, and he's got more subscribers than me.
Cheap entertainment, my friend.
Oh my
Cheap
God,
entertainment.
it's-
Well, if you want good quality entertainment, Ace, you're a funny guy, and you really are. I mean, your material is always great, and folks, check them out. I mean, hit up the Royal Flush Comedy Tour, and follow him on Facebook and online, because you'll always see some great stuff. And if anything, if you want to see him and not feel bad that you're paying him money, go see a show he's doing for free and give the money to charity.
There you
it's a
go.
nice thing to do.
Yeah, just check the
Got
Facebook
anything coming
page.
up in August we might plug? This might
sure.
get bumped.
The first Saturday in August, I will be back at Newport Grand
There you
with
go.
the next Royal Flush.
Beautiful thing. Come on down,
perfect.
folks.
Hey,
to the
hope
building
your
that
summer
used
was
to
great.
to the building that used to say slots.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so Ace, thanks so
man.
much.
Thanks
Great
for
to have
having
you
me.
here.
This was fun.